If I told you that 5 simple questions could expose a person's real feelings, the truth they hide, the emotions they bury, the pain they don't talk about, would you dare to ask them, stay with me? Because once you hear these, you'll never see people the same way again. There's a moment in every relationship, friendship, romance, family, when we sense that something is off. Their smile feels stiff. Their words feel rehearsed. Their silence feels too loud. And we think, I know something is happening, but why won't they just say it? The truth is, people rarely reveal their real feelings on their own. Not because they're dishonest, but because they're scared of judgment, scared of rejection, scared of losing the relationship, scared of being seen too clearly. But here's the secret. When the right question is asked, the emotional armor cracks. The truth slips out. People open up, sometimes with tears, sometimes with relief, sometimes with a courage they didn't know they had. Today, I want to take you into that world, the world where emotions lie beneath the surface, where truth hides behind carefully constructed masks. And I want to give you 5 questions powerful enough to reach what people never say. I'm not talking about manipulation. I'm talking about compassion, curiosity, human connection at its deepest level. So take a breath, settle in, and stay open, because these questions can change every relationship you care about. Most people don't hide their feelings because they want to deceive you. They hide their feelings because somewhere in their past, someone taught them that honesty is dangerous. Maybe they were told, don't be too sensitive. Maybe they were shamed for crying. Maybe their vulnerability was used against them. Or maybe they simply learned that being strong means being silent. So they build walls, quiet walls, heavy walls. And then one day you walk into their life and you can feel those walls even if you can't see them. You ask how they're doing and they say, I'm fine. You ask if something's wrong and they answer, it's nothing. But deep down, you know they're carrying stories they don't have the courage to speak. That's why these 5 questions matter. They aren't casual questions. They aren't small talk. They are invitations to step out from behind their defenses, to let go of emotional tension, to finally breathe. When you ask them, you aren't just seeking information. You are giving permission. You are saying, it's safe here. You can tell the truth. You can be seen without being judged, because the human heart responds to safety faster than it responds to logic. And when someone feels safe, they soften, they open. They let you see the emotions they've been burying beneath their calm face. This is where real connection begins, not in perfection, but in truth. The first question is gentle, but it strikes straight through the surface. What's the feeling you're avoiding right now? Most people don't expect this question. They expect, what's wrong? Or, are you okay? Questions that allow them to hide behind vague answers. But when you ask someone what they're avoiding, you invite them to acknowledge what they've been running from. And avoidance is always a doorway to truth. You'll notice something powerful when you ask this. They pause, their face softens, their eyes shift. Because for a moment, they're not trying to explain, they're trying to feel. And that's where honesty starts. People avoid emotions for many reasons. Some avoid anger because they fear it'll make them look out of control. Some avoid sadness because they think it makes them weak. Some avoid guilt because it forces them to face their mistakes. Some avoid fear because naming it makes it real. But the moment they speak it aloud, even shakily, even quietly, a layer of emotional weight lifts off their chest. This question isn't about exposing them. It's about freeing them from the emotional pressure they've been holding alone. When someone tells you, I guess I'm avoiding disappointment, or I'm avoiding feeling hurt, you're no longer talking to their mask. You're talking to their truth, to their heart, to the part of them that wants to be honest but didn't know how. This first question breaks the ice not by demanding answers, but by opening emotional space. The second question digs deeper into the silent disappointment people rarely articulate. What did you expect that didn't happen? Expectations are powerful. They shape our hopes, our confidence, our sense of safety. And when an expectation is broken, even a small one, it wounds us in ways we often don't describe. Instead, we bury it, we pretend nothing mattered, we act like we're over it, but inside we're carrying unspoken hurt. This question does something extraordinary. It gives people permission to admit what let them down. Maybe they expected support and got silence. Maybe they expected honesty and received half-truths. Maybe they expected effort and got excuses. Maybe they expected loyalty and felt betrayal. Or maybe they expected themselves to be stronger than they were. And because expectations feel deeply personal, failing to meet them can feel like failing as a person. That's why most people don't talk about them. It's emotionally exposing. But when you ask this question with genuine curiosity, you create a safe doorway for them to step through. You'll notice their tone change, their words slow down. Sometimes their eyes drop. Because now they're not just telling you what happened, they're telling you what hurt. This question uncovers the emotional gap between reality and hope. And in that gap lies the truth about someone's real feelings: disappointment, confusion, longing, frustration, or sadness. When they answer, you're not just learning what happened, you're learning what mattered to them. The third question reveals the emotional bruise most people try to hide. What part of this feels unfair to you? Unfairness is a deeply human wound. It cuts through our sense of worth, our dignity, our belief that we deserve good things. And yet, it's the feeling we almost never talk about, because admitting something feels unfair can sound childish, dramatic, or weak. So people swallow it. They minimize it. They say, "It's fine, I'll get over it." But under that calm voice is a truth their heart is screaming. This question gives them permission to speak that truth without shame. Maybe the unfairness is that they gave more than they received. Maybe they were ignored after showing up for everyone else. Maybe they were blamed for something they didn't cause. Maybe someone broke a promise they relied on. Maybe they weren't chosen, valued, or appreciated when they should have been. Or maybe the unfairness is inward, feeling angry at themselves for being too trusting, too forgiving, too hopeful. When you ask this question, something powerful happens. Their self-protection softens. People don't usually get the chance to name injustice in a relationship or situation. And naming it doesn't make them weak. It makes them honest. You'll see their shoulders drop, their breath deepen, their voice gain clarity, because identifying unfairness helps them reclaim emotional truth they've been denying. This question exposes the wound behind the frustration, and every real feeling has a wound underneath. The fourth question is the doorway to someone's raw, unfiltered truth. What do you wish you could say without being judged? This question is powerful because judgment, or the fear of it, is the number one reason people silence their real feelings. We all have words sitting in the back of our throats, heavy with emotion, waiting for the safety to be spoken. Words like, "I'm hurt. I'm angry. I feel invisible. I miss you. I need help. I don't feel loved anymore." But these words stay locked inside because people are terrified of the reactions they might trigger. They fear being misunderstood. They fear being labeled dramatic. They fear being dismissed, mocked, or rejected. So instead of speaking, they shrink. They swallow their truth. They choose silence over vulnerability. This question does something extraordinary. It lifts that fear for a moment. It tells them, say what your heart has been holding. I won't punish you for it. When you ask it, watch what happens. People soften. Sometimes their voice trembles. Sometimes they look away because the truth feels too naked. But the honesty that comes out is real, pure, unfiltered. They might reveal a truth they've been hiding for months. They might confess an emotion they've been struggling to control. They might share a need they've been too afraid to ask for. This question uncovers their emotional truth without pressure, just permission. When someone tells you what they'd say without fear, they're giving you access to their most protected feelings. The fifth question is the one that brings everything home. What do you need right now that you aren't asking for. This question reaches the heart of emotional honesty because behind every hidden feeling, there is an unmet need. People often know exactly what they need, but they silence themselves because they don't want to burden anyone. They don't want to seem demanding, needy, or weak. They've been trained to carry everything alone. So they stay quiet, they pretend they're okay, they minimize their pain, they make themselves smaller so they don't trouble anyone. But the truth is, silence doesn't heal anything. Silence only deepens the ache. When you ask this question, you're giving them a lifeline. You're saying, you matter, your needs matter, you're allowed to take up emotional space here. Maybe they need reassurance. Maybe they need clarity. Maybe they need time alone. Maybe they need a hug. Maybe they need someone to stop interrupting them. Maybe they need patience, forgiveness, honesty, or consistency. Or maybe they need help admitting they need help. Watch their expression when you ask this. Often, people freeze for a moment because they're not used to being invited to express their needs. You'll see the truth spread across their face before it reaches their words. This question doesn't just expose real feelings, it exposes the wound, the desire, the fear, and the hope all at once. It brings light to the part of them they've been trying to hide the most. And once they name what they need, healing finally begins. These 5 questions are powerful on their own, but their true strength lies in what they create emotional safety. Without safety, people hide. With safety, people reveal. And the difference between the two is the difference between shallow connection and deep connection. When you ask these questions gently, without pressure, you're sending a message stronger than the words themselves. You can be real with me. Most people go through life armored. They've learned to smile through discomfort, laugh through pain, to stay polite while their heart is breaking. They don't do this because they enjoy pretending. They do it because they've rarely experienced a space where emotional truth is welcomed instead of punished. These questions shift that. They tell the other person that your presence is not a battlefield, not a courtroom, not a competition, but a refuge, a place for honesty, vulnerability, and release. And here's something powerful. Most people don't need you to fix anything. They don't need perfect advice or magic answers. They need presence. They need understanding. They need someone who will sit with them in the truth without trying to rearrange it. When you provide that, trust deepens. Walls come down. The emotional distance that once felt impossible to cross suddenly disappears. People feel seen, fully seen, maybe for the first time in a long while. Because real connection isn't built on perfection. It's built on courageous questions and the safety to answer them honestly. There's something you need to prepare for. When you ask these 5 questions, people may reveal more than you expected, not because the questions are intrusive, but because they open doors that have been locked for years. And when a locked door finally swings open, emotions pour out with force. Sometimes you'll hear truths that break your heart. Sometimes you'll hear pain that's been silent for too long. Sometimes you'll hear anger, frustration, or sadness you didn't know existed. And sometimes you'll realize the person in front of you has been carrying something heavy alone long before you ever ask. This moment can feel overwhelming. It can feel raw. It can feel heavier than you anticipated. But this is where your presence becomes everything. Your job is not to judge, not to fix, not to rush them. Your job is to hold the space, steady, warm, and open. Because when someone trusts you with their real feelings, they're not asking for solutions. They're asking for safety. They're asking for understanding. They're asking for someone who can sit with the truth without turning away. Sometimes their truth will challenge you. Sometimes it will surprise you. Sometimes it will humble you. But it will always deepen the connection because honesty, no matter how heavy, brings 2 people closer. This is the moment when emotional walls crumble and real intimacy begins. After asking these 5 questions, something profound happens. You've created a space where truth can breathe, where feelings that were once hidden can finally be spoken, and where connection transforms from surface level politeness into real human intimacy. You've given someone permission to be fully seen. And in doing so, you've allowed yourself to see them in their deepest, most vulnerable state. The beauty of this process is that it doesn't rely on manipulation, clever tactics, or forcing anyone to open up. It relies on courage, your courage to ask and their courage to answer. It relies on compassion, patience, and presence. And it relies on one unshakable principle: emotional honesty is the foundation of meaningful relationships. When you leave this conversation, the person in front of you may feel lighter. They may feel understood. They may even feel relief they didn't know they were holding on to. And you, too, will feel something starved, a deep, resonant understanding of what it means to truly connect with another human being. Remember, these questions are not just tools. They are invitations, invitations to listen, invitations to honor feelings, invitations to witness the human heart in its rawest form. And when you ask them with genuine care, magic happens, walls crumble, masks fall away, and trust grows in ways that words alone could never create. So go ahead, ask the questions, be present, hold the space, and watch as the hidden currents of emotion transform into the strongest bridge between two people, the bridge of real, fearless, and compassionate connection.